Welcome to the Dr. Gabrielle Lyon Show, where cutting-edge science meets innovation and practical application for everyone. Now, the practical application in this episode is extraordinarily unique. I sit down with Heidi Somers. She is the founder of Buff Bunny. Maybe you've heard of Buff Bunny. If you haven't, well, definitely check them out because they are taking the world by storm. Why Heidi Somers? She is a self-made young lady. She is one of 6 kids, came from a very small town in Alaska, and built a multi-million-dollar business simply by following her heart with her drive and determination to help women everywhere. This conversation will leave you touched and heartfelt and empowered. Now, please join me in this conversation with Heidi Somers. Heidi Somers, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And I have to say, I want to tell everyone why I wanted you to come on. So you actually said to me, you were like, I don't know. Are we going to talk science? What are we going to talk about? And actually, we're going to talk about something that you are an expert on, and that is you. And one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on, and for those of you who are listening, this is the founder of Buff Bunny, and you also have multiple other businesses. But I think there is something extraordinary about what you have built and who you are. And I want to share that. I want to share that with the world, and I want to learn more because as I think about my 5-year-old daughter growing up, and I look at the landscape and I think, who can she look up to? We are in changing times, and well, I think you've done an extraordinary job. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I was telling her, I was telling you, I was like, do I talk to the camera or you?
You talk to me.
I haven't been on a lot of podcasts, but I was just saying that's probably the best compliment I've ever gotten just in life. Because, you know, for someone to have a daughter and be like, I hope that they like look at you or they have like someone like you to look up to. That's like, I can't think of a better compliment. So thank you. That's the nicest thing I've ever heard.
Well, you are so welcome and you earned it. And I'd love to talk about your journey. We all know Buff Bunny. And if you guys don't know Buff Bunny, I have been wearing all their clothes. It is an amazing collection, which are coming out with all kinds of different outfits and products and purses, but that is not the point. The beginnings of Buff Bunny, you come from a small town in Alaska.
Yep. One
of 6 children.
Yep.
Right? You were homeschooled.
Yes.
College was not your thing.
No.
Her husband is here, may or may not have been kind of laughing in the background. I think I heard him. And went on by being true to yourself to build a multi-million-dollar empire, all while maintaining your personal integrity. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. My back hurts, but thank you.
Why Buff Bunny? Where did it start?
So Buff Bunny Collection started because, you know, when you start on social media, a lot of people, guys, girls, you know, they typically do classic merch, right? Which is great. I love me some merch. And, you know, when I had women that were following my YouTube channel coming to me and they were saying like, you know, just watching how you meal prep and seeing the different workouts you do has helped me lose hundreds of pounds. I'm like, that's wild. So,
and you were actually overweight yourself, right?
Yeah. Like I'm always careful the way, you know,
Fair.
Not saying
Okay.
overweight,
Struggled
but
with
I was
your
a little soft, is what I like to say. You know, I was like, I had gained a good amount of weight. I think it was like 30 pounds in college. And I remember the struggle, you know, and how hard it was to get off like a pound, 2 pounds, 5 pounds. And so when I started social media, it was more so for fun. You know, I was in college and I was so focused on my future career that I was just doing social media for fun. I was like, hey, you know what? I learned some tips while I was trying to lose that 1, 2, 3, 5 pounds. And I want to share it with other women. Like, hey, like this is what I did. It worked for me. And I wasn't trying to be an expert or, you know, not trying to say like, I know all the answers, but I'm just going to share what worked for me. And I think because women saw that I was being genuine. I wouldn't lie about anything. I was like, I tried this, did not like it. I was very honest with product reviews. I felt like I wanted to be careful what I always put out. I never wanted to, talk about a product unless I believed in it. And I was always just really honest with my journey. And I think connecting with all the women when it came to do merch, I would see other merch that people would do. And I was like, man, how cool would it be to give them products that would actually help them in their journey? Not just a t-shirt, but leggings that were super flattering. I'm sure you've tried on leggings before, right? Where you're like, they're functional, but they're not cute.
I'm like, where are the scissors? I'm definitely, the only way to never wear these again is I don't know, I'm going to cut the side out or.
Yeah. And I've done that. Like I've cut out the bra on the inside, and sometimes it's like a great pair of leggings, but just the color is boring. Or there's just, it's like I would take products, and because I worked out so often. And
but you didn't start that way, right? When you were not, were you fit growing up?
I wasn't fit growing up. I hated the gym. I took weightlifting in high school. They put me in there, and I was like, I am not lifting that barbell.
What, did you fall under the assumption that you were going to get bulky?
Oh, absolutely. So when I in high school, when they put me in the weightlifting class, the teacher laughs, and I was like, this is funny, you do this for a living because you skip my class all the time. And I was like, yeah, because I wouldn't pick up the barbell that was 45 pounds. And when I first started working out, it's because I had gained a lot of weight. So
do you know why? Do you know why you gained weight?
Yeah, I was kind of struggling at the time. I lived in Alaska my whole life, born and raised. And I went through a period of time where I think it was within a month or so, I was cheated on, crashed my car, lost my job. And I was like, it was just kind of like this moment where I felt like I was just struggling. I lost confidence in myself. And I remember just feeling like really low, and like you're kind of like falling out of love with yourself, if that makes sense. And I was young. I was 20, I think. So when I moved to Texas, I was kind of like, screw it. There's nothing keeping me here. So I bought a one-way ticket, moved to San Antonio. And that's when I kind of started my healing journey.
I love that.
Yeah, it was so helpful during that time. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to date. I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to go to school and figure my life out.
How big was the town in Alaska? It's small, right?
2,000 people. So North Pole, Alaska.
Wait, was Santa Claus up there? Wait, Santa Claus.
We
at the
do
North
have a
Pole.
Santa Claus house. We do. You got to bring your kids one day.
I mean, I actually love Alaska.
Yeah?
Oh my God, it's so beautiful.
It's gorgeous, right?
Yes.
I think it's the most beautiful place I've ever seen, but I'm also biased. So.
It's beautiful. It's also very cold.
Very cold. When did you go?
I went probably, 15 or more, maybe 20 years ago, long time ago.
What part? Anchorage?
I was in Anchorage,
Yeah.
and there were lots of, are they called totem poles?
Yes.
There were lots of Indian art.
Yes.
That was amazing and it was actually a very spiritual kind of a place. It was very connected, I think is the best way to describe it. It was, I don't know, it had a lot of heart.
A lot of heart.
Yeah.
A lot of like good energy.
Yeah, it
and
does.
Just pure. That's why I love it.
I absolutely, it was. Just like Houston.
Yeah.
Kidding. Totally kidding
Houston's
about
so
that.
chaotic.
Just like my house around 6 p.m. dinner time, the witching hour. But when you left a town of 2,000, was your family supportive? Here you were coming from a really small town, going to, I think you went to San Antonio.
Yes.
Great pre-med program.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
you were
Part of why I
also-
picked San Antonio.
San Antonio, great nutrition sciences down there as well. Were they thinking, okay, Heidi, go ahead?
Oh, absolutely not.
One-way ticket, that's a bold statement.
Yeah, sometimes I look back on my life and I was like, I can't believe I made that decision. I feel like I was braver back then. Sometimes the things that I would do, but I bought my one-way ticket, and I don't think I told my parents right away. I think I waited like a couple weeks, and I was like, surprise, I'm moving. But they understood. I was like, hey, as someone who was homeschooled most of their life, and I'm just, getting my feet wet in college, I was like, I feel like I don't want to wait to go to like a big university or college until med school. I was like, I need to like finish my degree in San Antonio, and then hopefully I get into med school in San Antonio. It was like my way of thinking at the time. So my whole family, though, like, 'cause I have 5 siblings, they all lived in Alaska. So like, and none of them had gone to college. They're like, you really just bought a one-way ticket and you're going to go to college in the lower 48, as we call it.
The lower 48.
The lower 48.
Yeah.
And I was like,
This over
yep,
here.
I'm doing it. And I remember my mom was like crying, when I left. And my dad's like, don't talk to, he's like driving me to the airport. He's like, don't talk to any strangers. I was like,
And you're like, Dad, I was
Everyone's a
homeschooled.
stranger.
Yeah, I was homeschooled. Everybody, I don't know.
yeah, I was like, I'll be
right.
okay. But I remember thinking like, he's like, don't talk to any strangers. Like literally everybody there is a stranger. Like I didn't know anybody. I moved in with a guy that I met a few times in Fairbanks. 'Cause I put on Facebook or MySpace at the time. I don't remember. I was like, bought a one-way ticket to San Antonio. And everyone's like, what are you going to do when you get there? I was like, figure it out. And someone was like, hey, I live here. I have a spare room if you want to crash here till you find a spot. I was like, cool, I'll do that.
Did you find that coming from a small town, probably everybody knows each other for the most part, right?
Absolutely.
There is a level of trust that
yes.
a small town generates and breeds. Did you find that you transferred that same level of trust over when you came to San Antonio?
Yes, for sure. I think that in Alaska, when a small town, everyone they rely on each other. If you need help, you see someone walking, on the side of the road, it's like you pull over, see if they need help. You see someone in a ditch, you pull them out. It's just like everyone has each other's back and like you trust one another for the most part. And then in San Antonio, I think I got my car broken into a few times and, just learning people's motives. It was very different. And it was definitely a culture shock moving to San Antonio.
Do you think that's part of the reason why you gained weight in college, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that external stress is or was the impetus to gaining weight and feeling, and I'm just putting words in your mouth. I mean, there's a certain level of chaos that happens. You didn't just pick one thing. Going to college is in and of itself a whole situation.
Yeah.
But moving from Alaska, from being homeschooled to a massive university away very far from your family and also being being the first to go, that layers on a particular level of detail that, I don't know, can be challenging for the listener out there. Every single one of you remembers when you had a major life transition and you threw yourself into that.
Yes. I think it was definitely uncomfortable is like the word when I describe it. I was like, I was very uncomfortable. And I remember, going to San Antonio, I was like, man, this is a lot. And I second guessed myself multiple times. I was like, is this the right decision? But I love Texas. Like even now I'm like, I never regretted that decision because of everything that kind of developed from that one little decision of moving from Alaska to Texas. I often wonder, I was like, man, if I wouldn't have moved to Texas, I'm sure I would have had an amazing life, but it's like, I wouldn't have met my husband. I wouldn't have created the businesses that I have. I probably wouldn't have gained weight because I think part of the reason I gained weight is one, I was kind of struggling mentally at the time and I was learning to love myself again. And also when you come from a small town, we don't have access to a lot of fast food. So part of me was, I was maybe emotional eating. I was like, I'm bored, I'm sad,
Yes.
this. So I was turning to food, but also the accessibility of food in San Antonio was drastically different than North Pole. I think in North Pole we have one restaurant and we have 2 or 3 fast food chains, and that's it. You got to drive like 30 minutes into town if you want to go to like other restaurants and this and that. So it's not like it's 5 minutes away. So I think that had a little bit to do with
The
it.
accessibility.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was fun trying all these different foods. I was like, this is great. But yeah, I gained weight very quickly, for sure.
And do you think that, and you've helped a lot of women, and it's interesting that you started on social media before it was a thing, right? So this was, 10 years ago, a little bit less maybe?
Yes, I think I started my YouTube channel in 2014, I believe it was. So yeah, about 10 years.
And that was, that's, in my mind, that's before it's been a thing. I mean, I know it's been around for a long time, but I think what we are seeing a whole new generation of YouTube, Instagram, social media,
Yeah.
right now. But in 2014, that wasn't the rule. That was the exception. You gained weight. And I think that all of us can remember a time where we gained weight. And, when I see patients, emotional eating is a huge problem, especially for young women.
Exactly.
Because what are the outlets? Drugs, alcohol, food, sex, purchasing. There's probably only a handful of vices to mitigate the feelings,
Yes. It's a struggle, and it's something that even now that's a big thing because I have a fitness app and the most amazing women are on there, and that is the biggest struggle is emotional eating. And I'm trying to figure out like what I can create to help them break out of that, because that is the biggest struggle I would say that they have is like they're like, I can work out all day, but it's so hard for me to control my food and my diet.
And it's still hard for people, right? The majority of
Yeah.
our population is overweight and obese.
They are.
What do you think allowed you to get out of that? How did you start healing? Because you moved to find a new environment, to follow your dreams, which is pretty independent to just say, okay, I'm going to go. But then also to develop a habit, because you weren't emotional eating before, right?
No.
Then you develop a habit, and now you have to unwind that habit.
Yes. So I think it was, let's see, I gained weight. And when it came to losing the weight, this is all during this time where I'm like trying to, heal myself emotionally. A few things that helped me was one, I swore off dating. So I think there was a period where I was like, I'm going to give myself 1 year. And this has helped me tremendously. And I know it's helped a lot of other friends of mine that are women. And I really didn't talk about it too much until recently. But it was, when I went through all of that traumatic experience in a short amount of time, I told myself I was going to give myself 1 year. I was like, 1 year, no dating, no talking to guys, like no nothing. I'm swearing off men. Absolutely not. And I was like, I'm going to be abstinent. I'm just nothing. And I think when you give that boundary to yourself, I told myself 1 year, ended up being 3 years.
Wow, 3 years.
3 years.
Did you just not feel that you had accomplished mentally what you had wanted to accomplish?
No, I think it was more so I told myself 1 year, I'm focusing on me. And during that time, when it's 1 year, I got to know myself so well. And it's like you learn your own boundaries, like what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with, what you'll tolerate, what you won't tolerate, because you're kind of dating yourself, right? So I would speak to myself internally a lot. It sounds silly, right?
No,
Instead of
it doesn't.
journaling, yeah,
But
it helps.
Here is the thing. It doesn't sound silly, and you have created a life for yourself that's amazing. And when you think about successful people, there are particular habits and particular ways in which they operate in the world and within themselves that if we can understand, then we can become the best version of ourselves.
That's true.
And that's exactly why you're here, to talk about that. So it definitely doesn't sound silly.
Okay.
And when you started talking to yourself, was it just being aware of your inner dialogue? Did you notice that there were certain mental habits that you had? How did you begin to unwind that?
I think it's little things. Like I still do it now, right? So I was having anxiety on a plane recently. I have crazy anxiety whenever there's turbulence. I start freaking out. But I really talk to myself. I'm like, you know what? We're going to land the plane. You're going to be fine. And so it's almost like this affirmation amongst myself that I just talk to myself in my head. I'm like, you're going to be fine. You're going to get there. You're going to forget about this whole plane ride. And it's kind of like I just talk to myself in a way where it's a friend. I guess I used to talk to myself in a negative way in my head whenever I was going through what I was going through. It's like, oh, you get cheated on. You're like, oh, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not driven enough, or whatever that is, right? So you kind of will speak to yourself so harshly. And sometimes, and I feel like I went through that when I was 19. And at that point, I was like, my friends would never talk to me this way. I would never speak to a friend this way. So it was at that point I was like, I'm not going to talk to myself that way anymore. And and I won't lie and say like I've never, I've had days
Of
where I
course.
wake up and I'm like, oh, I should be doing this and this and this. But then I have to like put myself back in that mind of that 19-year-old. It's like, you shouldn't speak to yourself that way. And whenever I'm, struggling with something, or even if I'm celebrating a win, I'm like, you did that. That's freaking awesome. And so I really learned to speak to myself in a way that's not ego. I'm not full of myself, but I'm proud of myself. And I pull myself out of things when I'm struggling. I think that helped me the most.
I think that is amazing. And essentially what you're saying is you became your own best friend.
Yeah.
There's a book by Kamal Ravikant. Have you ever read that?
No.
And I believe Kamal's going to, hey, Kamal. And I think that the book is called, Be Your Own Best Friend.
Wow. Okay, I have to read that.
Yes. And that is insightful, and we can all learn from that. Did you read? How did you figure that out? Did you come to that conclusion yourself?
Yes, I think it was a mixture of obviously like going through that struggle that I went through, beating myself up about it. I was like, I want to do big things in my life. Like I want to be able to help people, help women. And I kind of knew in that point, it's like I could either stay where I'm at now and just like beat myself up and almost like be in this like victim mentality, or if I can pull myself out of this, then I won't be able to grow, essentially, if I'm staying where I'm at, like this like victim, mentality, if you will. I think it was just one of those things where a new environment definitely helped clear my head and everything, but also I was kind of going there for school as well. So.
And did you always, or have you always been this driven?
I would say I've been driven probably ever since I got my first job. And
wasn't that 16 or 10 or something pretty young?
So technically, let's see, I did the paper route when I was like 12 years old, like with me and my best friend. But I think in Alaska, you have to be 16, I think, before you can get a job.
So she didn't have a job, friends, till she was 16.
Yes. So I started working when I was 16. I got my first job. And at that point, I was like, oh, wow, I feel so much more independent. Like I feel like I can do anything. I can buy myself whatever I want. I can save up. I can do things. I can gift, my mom a present if I want to. So I love that independence. I think that's what drove me. I love the independence part. And I would say I've been pretty driven most of my life, ever since I first got a job. And I think it's because in my mind, I was like, if something ever happens to myself or like a loved one, I have to be able to take care of them. And I think that was just instilled in my brain, where I was scared of not working and not having like a savings account, because it's like, well, then what would I do?
Did that come from your parents? What did they do for work? Were they thinking like that, or your other siblings like that?
Not really. So my mom was a dental hygienist. She recently retired. And then my dad was a real estate agent. And they're pretty good about saving money. I think because when you have 6 kids, like all of us my mom and dad were very careful with money. It's like, obviously when you have 6 kids are expensive.
Yes, I know. I have 2 of them. Yes.
So it was one of those things where, a lot of times we couldn't afford certain things because 6 kids. I think that's partly where it came from. It's like, our parents, when I went to college, my parents didn't help me with college, of course, because 6 kids, it's a lot. So I was like, don't worry, I got this. Like, I can do it. Of course, I was like panicking, trying to figure out like my savings account and everything. And, but that's what made me want to work 4 jobs. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to go to college.
4 jobs?
I worked 4 jobs to save up money in order to go to college. Yeah.
Did you ever think you couldn't do it?
I mean, there was a few times, where I think there was one time where my dad called me because he could see my checking account, but like they wouldn't send me money or anything like that. I was like, don't worry guys, I got it. And they were like, do you though?
We're looking at you have
Yeah.
$15 in your,
It was $7. Yeah.
7.
So he called me one time and I was getting gas and I was like, I wonder how much I have in my checking account because I'm getting gas, right? And he calls me, he's like, how you doing? I was like, I'm doing good. I'm about to go into work. And he was like, okay.
Just checking.
Just checking because you have $7 in your account. I was like, great, I'll put 5 in my gas tank. And I was like, don't worry, I'm going to work tonight. So I worked at a hookah lounge.
A hookah lounge. That is where it's not smoke, it's flavored.
It's a flavored tobacco
Okay.
that people smoke out of. It's popular in the Middle
seen it.
East.
Yes.
So I went in there for my first job when I moved to San Antonio, and I'll never forget. I thought it was marijuana, and so I walked in. It said a Middle Eastern restaurant. I was like, love Middle Eastern food. So I walk in, and they were like, yeah, we're more of a hookah bar. I was like, what's hookah? They started laughing. They showed me in the back, and I was like, I'm trying to go to medical school one day. Like, I can't be doing anything illegal.
You're like, wow, Texas is really different. They do really strange things here.
I was like, I can't be doing this.
Yeah.
And they thought it was so funny. They're like, this is 100% legal. This is tobacco. This is not marijuana. So that made me feel more comfortable. But I definitely did a lot of research before I went back there.
Yes, you did. One of the things that is interesting is that, as I think about when I'm raising my daughter, what is nature versus nurture? And Rich Diviney, he's a former SEAL, wrote this book, Attributes. And from his perspective, I consider him a leadership expert, and he says that people are born with very particular attributes and that we all have various temperatures of them. For example, you might have an extraordinary amount of courage, whereas someone else, maybe Christian, your husband, has an extraordinary amount of persistence. But there are particular attributes that we are born with, and that our environment and our choices nurture those attributes. And, I'm thinking there are so many people that would say to themselves, well, I can't lose weight. I don't have enough money. I don't know how I'm going to start this business. And you started this by saying what you really wanted was freedom. Mm-hmm. Freedom and independence.
Yeah.
And whether someone is thinking to themselves, I don't know, I'm never going to be able to work 4 jobs and go to college. It sounds as if you had a particular level of discipline and persistence and grit that allowed you to do these things.
That's so funny. Grit's my favorite word.
It is.
Yeah. It's funny that you said that.
Do you feel that that is one of your attributes, one of your strongest attributes?
I would say so. I'm definitely very persistent. And, when it comes to like a roadblock, if I really want something, I figure out how to get there. And if there's a roadblock in the way, I'm like, I'm going over, I'm going under, I'm going over the sides. Like, I'm going to figure out a way to get there. And I think that's probably one of my strengths and something that I always try to teach my team, right? I'm like, oh, how did this process go? And they're like, oh, I came on a roadblock. And it's like, great, how can we go over it, under it? How can we, or like right through it? And that's, I would say persistence is a big one for me.
I would agree. With that, did you find that, because eventually you decided you weren't going to go to college?
Yes. Well, I did go for a few years.
Right.
Yes.
But there was a time where, so you went to the hookah lounge, you started to gain weight, things seemed chaotic, right? I was listening to you talk on a different podcast where you were eating some fried bread thing, right? Whatever the thing was.
Oh, yes. At the hookah lounge.
Yes. I've done my homework.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was Russell's podcast.
Okay. I have done my homework.
Jibbin. That's what it was called.
Okay.
Yes.
And at some point, you were really goal oriented and thinking about med school, right? This was the thing.
Yes.
What happened? Was there, 4 jobs in college is a lot. Being pre-med and going to keep a job is nearly impossible.
Yes.
Because
it's a lot.
you have to, unless you have a photographic memory, it is very difficult because you have to be the top of your class.
Yes. I think the way that I did it is instead of working one full-time job, I found a way to find 4 different jobs that paid a lot. So that's kind of my reasoning for having 4. It's like I worked at the Hookah Lounge on the weekends during the week. And it was after school. So you'd go in at like 6 p.m. to like 2 a.m. And then I would work as a bottle service girl on the weekends. And then I did promos for like Red Bull, Crown Royal, a bunch of different companies because they would pay $30 an hour. And I was like, and you'd only have to work 3 hours. You'd be in a really nice liquor store. And I was like, great, I could do that. So it's like I found what could pay the most in a short amount of time. So that way I could save, pay for my textbooks, pay for college, because I was paying for everything out of pocket because I couldn't get a loan because I would apply for grants and I wouldn't get anything. And so I was like, all right, great. Well, then I guess I'm just going to work 4 jobs.
Did you get stressed inside? Were you thinking, oh my gosh? Or were you like, nope, I got it. I'm going to just charge forward?
Oh yeah, I got stressed. Yeah, I think there was one semester and that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to take a back seat. And, I was in college working all these different jobs, but I was really good at science and math. Those were the 2 subjects I was great at. I wasn't the best at English and I wasn't the best at history. But science and math, I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. I was in the science club. I was a big nerd. I was like, this is great. And then I worked as a surgical assistant for a periodontist because I wanted that for my resume. And, they trained me on the job. And I really enjoyed it. And I really wanted that career path. But as soon as I started doing social media, again, it was for fun. I was like, this is great. I get to teach women what I learned to get in better shape. But as I continued doing social media, I got offered all these different amazing opportunities. And while I was getting offered these opportunities and I started, taking YouTube more seriously, I started making a lot of money. And I was like, wow. But a part of me was like, this is temporary. This is not a forever thing. I need to keep doing this while I'm still trying to get my degree.
What was your first thing? Your first video? Do you remember? Were you?
It was a Q&A.
And you just, but are you?
Watch it.
Wait a second. But are you, okay, do you think of yourself as someone who is extroverted? Was it comfortable to do? I mean, I only say this because I remember my first social media post and I am an extroverted person. My armpits were sweating.
Oh, it's very scary.
I was like, what's going to happen if I do this,
Yeah, because it's the unknown.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things to say is back then it was very much the unknown. Like social media was the unknown. Creating a business out of social media was the unknown. People were like, you're crazy. So I would say it was like introvert, extrovert. Even now still, like I love people. I love to talk and I love relationships, but then I also need to charge my battery at times. So as someone who was homeschooled, grew up in an isolated area, I was definitely very sheltered growing up. So making videos and posting them online terrified me.
But you did it anyway.
But I did it. I decided to make myself uncomfortable and be like, hello, everyone. I do fitness things.
And had you lost the weight then? You went through a period where you were kind of finding yourself emotionally eating?
Yes. So I think it was a couple years after I got in great shape. I started going to the gym. I hated it, but I was like, I remember I was trying on clothes at, I forget what store it was, Hollister, American Eagle, something like that. And I had to go up quite a few sizes. It wasn't just one size, it was quite a few. And I remember thinking it wasn't because I gained weight, it was the way I felt, right? And in my head, I was like, if I'm working 4 jobs and I'm putting myself through school and I'm doing all these things, I need to have more energy. I need to take care of myself because I won't be able to do these things if I'm not taking care of myself.
That's absolutely right. That is spoken like a entrepreneur that is going to be able to have a legacy career.
Thanks. That's so nice.
I am telling you the truth because one of the biggest rookie mistakes that entrepreneurs make is they fail to understand that health is the great equalizer.
Yes.
It's not brain power. It's not funding. It's not capital. Mm-hmm. It is health is the great equalizer. And whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you will never go higher than your health. Period. End of story. The earlier that you learn that,
the better.
The greater your legacy will be able to be if that's what someone chooses.
That is so true.
Here's my 30-second routine to improving my health, my gut health, and overall well-being. That is AG1. This covers anything and everything that I could be lacking in my current nutrition plan. AG1 is an evidence-backed multivitamin and gut health and beyond supplement that has uniquely formulated whole food compounds that act synergistically together, making it a highly bioavailable and bioactive product to enhance your health. In fact, I first heard about AG1, believe it or not, from my mom. She called me raving about the supplement, saying that her gut health felt better, her skin, her overall body felt so much better. Guess what it was? It was AG1. And I wasn't surprised because AG1 contains prebiotics, probiotics, gut-supporting ingredients to support your digestion, reduce bloating, and keep you regular. AG1 is made with bioavailable ingredients that actually work with your body. AG1 has all non-GMO ingredients and contains no added sugar. And it is also an amazing tool in your toolbox for longevity to help fill nutrient gaps. Just one daily scoop provides whole body benefits. That's right. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. Head over to their website and check out their published research. Thank you to AG1 for sponsoring this episode. This holiday season, try AG1 for yourself or even gift it to someone special. It's the perfect time to start focusing on supporting your body with an easy, delicious daily health drink. That's why I've partnered with AG1. Every week of November, AG1 will be running a special Black Friday offer for a free gift with your first subscription, in addition to the welcome kit with vitamin D3, K2. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/lion to see what gift you can get this week. That's drinkag1.com/lion. And let's start the holiday season healthy. Okay, you guys know I'm always on the lookout for ways to improve my immunity and gut health. And I've been using Armra colostrum in my coffee to further strengthen my gut health. Now, why colostrum? Because it is the first nutrition we receive in life and contains all the essential nutrients our bodies need to grow strong. Now, why Armra? Because it is a live product. It has 400 or so living bioactive nutrients that build the barriers of your body through your digestive health. And it has research-backed health benefits. Armra is a premium bovine colostrum concentrate. That's a tongue twister. And unlike any other product on the market, is sustainably sourced from colostrum from grass-fed cows based in the US dairy farms. And unlike most colostrums, which use heat pasteurization that depletes nutrient potency, Armra uses cold that purifies and preserves the integrity of hundreds of these bioactive nutrients while removing casein and fat. It's very gentle on the stomach. My children use it. And as a sponsor, we've worked out a very special offer for my audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/Dr. Lion and get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/Dr. Lion. I recommend taking Puori O3 Ultra Pure Fish Oil. Why? Because I did my training in nutritional sciences with a heavy focus on muscle health. Now, there is an abundance of evidence supporting the use of omega-3 fish oil in overall health, muscle, brain, mood, the list goes on. I won't take just any omega-3 supplement. I only want the best quality fish oil. And that's why I've been using Puori. This is the ultimate in high quality and high class brands. Puori O3 Ultra Pure Fish Oil is third-party tested. I trust it to be free of heavy metals and other impurities. Every batch of Puori O3 Ultra Pure Fish Oil and all of their supplements are tested against more than 200 contaminants, with all their results published online. Now, I worked out a deal in exchange for sponsorship. They offer you guys, my listeners, 20% off store-wide. What's even more amazing is that even applies to the already discounted subscriptions. You'll get almost a third off the price. But in order to get this offer, you'll need to go to my exclusive URL, which is puori.com/Dr. Lion, and use my promo code Dr. Lion at checkout. That's puori.com/Dr. Lion. You guys will love this brand.
So true. 'Cause that's probably something that helped me the most is taking care of myself and learning, discipline, patience, boundaries. Because I often think like, man, if I didn't learn that, I don't think I would be able to do what I'm doing now.
There's
and
no
it
way.
started with fitness.
No way.
No way.
And yeah, you were trying on clothes. You were up
Yes.
your sizes.
So I went up a few sizes, and it was more so the way that I felt. I was like, I feel sluggish. I feel brain foggy. I just don't feel sharp. And I knew that if I didn't start taking care of myself, then I wouldn't be able to keep up with what I was doing because I was exhausted all the time. So I was like, if this could give me just a little bit more energy, then I could take an extra class. That's how I was thinking. So
I could just do more.
I could do more.
Yeah.
So I started going to the gym, hated it. I hated lifting weights. I hated the treadmill. I hated
Why?
all of it.
How come?
I think I just didn't enjoy it. I loved, at the time, I loved school and I loved food. I loved friends. I just didn't enjoy the gym. And I still continued to go. And over time, I'd have all these guys in the gym trying to give me advice. And I was like, I'm
love
not
that.
getting bulky. No, thank you. They're like, oh, you got to do this bicep curls. I was like, absolutely not. I don't want your arms.
I am not doing universal chest day.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Not doing bench. But I would get all this advice from men because at the hookah bar, it was all a bunch of guys that worked there. And my roommate was a guy. So it's all this men giving me advice. And I was like, I want a woman giving me advice. So I just felt a little bit more comfortable that way. But I didn't know any women that lifted weights, that were really in shape. So I started going to gym, kind of figuring things out. And it helped because at the time I was in school, I was taking anatomy and physiology, science of nutrition. So I was learning those things in college, which was helpful. And I started really enjoying it, like really learning the process and teaching myself, okay, so this is how it works. And this is how you can mold your body and build your muscle. And then I remember going to CrossFit. I had a friend who was like, he was like 500 pounds. He was like, Heidi, my doctor says if I don't start working out, I'm going to die really young. And he was like, will you go to CrossFit with me? I was like, you're joking. It's the hardest, like that, to me, that was the hardest thing that you could do. But I went to CrossFit. I remember seeing a girl, I'll never forget. I was struggling doing like step ups on a box. And this girl she comes in, she's just drenched in sweat. And you could see her six pack through her shirt. And I was like, how'd you get those?
I did not see that at American Eagle, but
no, but I was like, I want those. Like that's incredible. She looked great. She was just glowing. And I was like, I want what she has. That's amazing. So I continued to, lose weight, get in great shape. CrossFit really helped because of the community. And I was just learning things along the way. I was like, okay, great. Having a friend to talk to helped. Having a community there helped. Researching and learning and taking information from people you trust. And at the time, like now I was like, I love getting advice from my husband. I'm like, yeah, what helps with this? And, we'll talk about things. And I'm very comfortable doing his workout routines for the most part. But at the time, I did not feel comfortable taking any advice that wasn't a woman because I just didn't know. And over time, I learned so much, got in amazing shape. And then I was like, started posting YouTube videos. And again, people watching, I feel like they just knew I wasn't trying to be a know-it-all. I was like, you got to do this. I was like, I'm going to show you it worked for me. And I loved it. I didn't like this. I loved this. This worked. This didn't work.
And why did you decide? What made you think, okay, I'm going to pick up the camera? Because was it on a camera at this time? Or I think maybe they were doing on phones. Were you?
So I was like, this will show my age. But let's see, I started on Instagram. And at the time, Instagram didn't have videos. It was only photos. And it wasn't swipe photos. It was just one picture. So for me, I was showing like what I was eating, but I couldn't show them my full workouts because it was a photo. So I would do a photo of me like squatting and I would put my whole workout and girls were like, I want to do this workout. I just don't know how to do the form. And I was like, okay. So I had a friend that was like, why don't you put these on YouTube? I was like, that's terrifying.
Totally
Absolutely
terrifying.
not.
You're like, we're not friends anymore.
Yeah, I was like, but he was so supportive and we're really good friends to this day.
Amazing.
And he was like, he's like, you're coming to Pittsburgh. He's like, I'm going to follow you around with a camera and just like, if I have to. And he was just very supportive and it made me feel more confident. And he was like, imagine what you could do if you could actually demonstrate your workouts for women. Because no one was really doing that. I think there was like 2 or 3 other women on YouTube kind of doing things, but everyone has their own style. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can do some videos. I was very awkward, very nervous. When I watch those old videos, I'm like, man, I was like terrified. And you can tell I was like frozen. But it got easier with each video I uploaded. And the women that were commenting made it so worth it. They were like, now I know, now I feel comfortable going into the gym and doing this workout because I saw a girl doing it and she looks great and not bulky. And so me kind of like showing what I was doing, and then, I would answer every comment at the time and just telling like, you can do this. Like, you can do hard things and you're not going to get bulky.
Why did you feel the need to help? Would you say that you are or always have been kind of a servant leader? Was it a way of being of service?
Yeah, that's my love language, is acts of service. So I love doing things for people. Is it?
Yeah.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah, we did. Sure is. Acts of service all the way.
Yeah, I just, like, I love doing things for people. I'm like, how can I help you?
Matt, who does that sound like? It is, yes. Because it's, I don't know, maybe selfishly, just if you can fix something, help something, make something better for somebody, show up for somebody, sign me up.
Yeah. That's kind of how you started your podcast too, right? It's like you were giving the world a service.
I built my career by being good to people.
I love that.
That is, people will ask me, how did you think this and that? We just had one of the most impressive people on the podcast right before. He's a metabolic expert. He's first author. He's been cited by thousands and thousands of people. Wow. We've been friends for 10 years.
That's so cool.
I built my career. Yes, I'm a good doctor. And yes, I'm really interested in being able to advocate for the science and read it and translate it, which is really my role. But I would not be where I am if I didn't have good, meaningful relationships, hands down.
That's amazing. And so be good to people.
And so when
put that on a mug.
So, and so when people ask me what's the thing, they ask me about branding or they ask me about this and that. The real secret to success, which isn't a secret, is actually be good and transparent and giving.
Yes.
And really actually care about the person on the other end.
Yes.
And quite frankly, that is what generates meaning. So
very true.
That's what happened.
I love that.
And why did you do it? Did you feel that same drive to share and provide value just to do it?
I think it's like the love language, right? So acts of service. I really enjoyed helping other people. And that's kind of, at the time when I was young, I was like, I want to be a doctor one day. And they're like, why? I was like, I want to help people. It's like that's what made me want to do that at the time.
Same.
And I think being able to help people in a different way, it's like I didn't become a doctor, but I was like, if I can figure out how to help people in a different way, then it's still helping people if that's like my goal. So I remember just like really enjoying the moments that, I got to talk back and forth with women and they were like, this changed my life. Like, and, at the time I was like, I'm just meal prepping, I'm just recording my workouts. And that's what I was thinking. But it's like one little tip helped, it sparked something in a woman, which then they took off and they did all the work. But I think realizing that it's a domino effect, and I remember this girl at an expo, I was telling Mari about this. It was like, I remember she came to meet me and she was like, I want to meet you because I lost hundreds of pounds watching your videos.
It's the sweetest.
And I was like, what? And that was just such a big wake up call. And she goes, it affected my life, but it also affected my kids' lives.
Yes.
And to me, I was like, I'm never going to stop doing what I'm doing. Like in that moment, I was like, and it was, I think one of the first expos that I did, maybe the first or second. And I was like, this is so powerful. Like I love what I do. And even if I have to work 18 hours a day and, even if I never make as much money as a doctor or this, I was like, I love what I'm doing right now. And it just gives me so much purpose. And that's why I love to do it. And what you said about transparency, that is like my other favorite word. I was like, we have a lot of similar words. I love
We just became best friends. It's amazing.
I recently hired a marketing director, and that was like my big thing is I was like, we built the brands on transparency. I was like, we never lie to our customers. We always create masterpieces of products, and transparency is my number one. You know, if we lost something, if we are in the wrong, we come out with it. We let them know. You know, hopefully we don't, you know, do wrong things or anything like that. But it's like, you know, a shipment comes late, we mess up an order. I was like, always be transparent about it, because that's like how you can build a successful company, brand, community, and it can be so easily be taken away if you're not transparent.
Yes. And when you started doing this, obviously you were also pre-med at the time. Did you get pushback? Did you get criticism? Were your professors, if they knew, saying, hey, you can't do this, why are you? Anything like that?
Not really. So I think it was, if anything, I shadowed in on a surgery one time, and it was funny. It was some neurosurgeons. I met them when I was out eating, and they were like, "Oh, my dog's name was Neuro at the time. His name was Neurotransmitter Ranvier."
You could have just picked Steve or something. Gary, what's up?
But I was like, Neurotransmitter Ranvier. What a cool name.
Yeah.
And I was calling my dog's name. I was like, Neuro, come here. And these doctors heard me, and they're like, did you just call your dog Neuro? And I was like, yeah. So then we started chatting, and they were like, oh, we're all in our residency right now. And they're like, do you want to see an open brain surgery? I was like, absolutely, I do. So I remember going, and I got to spend the day watching them extract a tumor.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so cool. And I was in the operating room. I don't even know if this was allowed at the time, but
probably not.
Probably not.
They are
right?
definitely getting fired, guys.
I won't say who it is. But I remember, you know, I was close. I was this far away. I was in the room, and they were like, I think they probably thought I was in my residency. I'm not really sure, but they got me in there.
Yes, because who else would name their dog Neuro? They definitely thought you were in medicine, for sure.
And I think the team that helped me in, they were residents. I don't know what they did to get me in there, but I remember watching, and they were like, do you want to get closer? I was like, if I get closer, I'm getting blood in my eye. I'm good right here. And they're like, if you think you're going to throw up, just raise your hand. But I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I loved it. But I remember talking to the doctors, and they were like, so why do you want to do this? And I was like, I want to help people. And they were like, just letting me know of different surgeries. Like sometimes you go in for a 5-hour surgery, you come out 18 hours later. And they were telling me a lot of real life scenarios. So if anything, they were almost trying to scare me out of it. And not that it scared me, but it's like talking to them. I also worked for a doctor in San Antonio. He had a nutrition shop, and that was one of the coolest things. Like he had a supplement store where patients would come in, and he would look at their prescriptions and say, okay, like, yes, you should take all these things. This one though, you might just need a supplement. So maybe see if your doctor wants to take this instead. And I thought it was really cool what he was doing. And then he kind of had a couple conversations with me too. He was like, if you want this, go for it. He was like, but if it's to help people, there's different ways to help people. I was like, yeah, you're right. So I think after sitting with those and talking to different doctors, it made me think differently of, oh, you can help people all different types of ways. So I think that kind of was a eye-opener for me.
How did your family take it when you, I mean, because there had to,
yes.
Right? So here you had moved, you spent all this money on college.
Yeah.
You'd saved for years, were working for various jobs.
Yes.
And now you're calling, I can just imagine. What's your mom's name?
Wendy.
Hey, Wendy, I just wanted to call to tell you I'm moving my medical career to full-time YouTube. I know you guys are in Alaska. You totally get YouTube down there. I mean,
dial-up internet.
Yeah, and I have more than $7 in my account. I mean, your parents must have just been, I mean.
What's going on?
What do they say? Are you on drugs? Like, what did they say?
That hookah bar. No, I think I mean, I worked for so long and so hard, and I did everything. I think one of my family members, she probably took it the hardest. Like she was like, you have come so far. What are you doing? And I was like, I know, but I love what I do now. And I remember she was like, I just want you to know if you go this way, you might regret it, and you will probably never make as much money as a doctor. And I remember thinking, I'm not doing it for the money. Like I'm doing it because I I love these women. I love what I'm doing for them. And even if it's temporary, I want to like soak all this up because I love what I'm doing right now. And I can always change. If I want to try to go to med school or I want to change careers or do anything later, I can. But I just like, I can't imagine walking away from these women that are watching these videos and they're learning so much.
How many women were, and it wasn't necessarily in a community at that point, right? It wasn't an app. It wasn't a community.
No, it was just my YouTube comments.
It was, you were driven by YouTube comments, but you were reaching real people. How big was your YouTube at the time?
Let's see. I want to say when I quit school, maybe like 50,000 YouTube followers. So it was a good amount, but it wasn't like 100,000 or anything like that.
And how big? You have a YouTube channel now, yeah? And how big is it now?
800,000.
Okay.
I would say I do more like TikTok, Instagram. Now I diversified with platforms, but YouTube, I think I'll always have a special place for YouTube because you could share so much on that platform.
Yes.
Versus the others. But
so you had 50,000 subscribers.
Yes.
And you call your family and say, I'm leaving school.
Yes. I think it was because I had one semester where I was, sometimes I look back, I'm like, how did I do that? But I was working full time for the periodontist and I was doing YouTube once a week. You know, I would film, edit, upload same day. I was working on the weekends.
The whole week? I mean, the whole day? Was it one video a week or was it?
No, I was like, okay, what am I capable of doing? So I would spend my Sunday, I would film, edit, upload on a Sunday. So it wasn't like the craziest videos, but it was like the information, the videos that were helping. So I would Monday through Thursday or Friday, I think Monday through Thursday is when I was work at the doctor's office. And then I was doing night school. And then I was working on the weekends as a bottle service girl. And
so the reason you did not date is because you had no time.
I was dating at that point.
I mean,
but actually,
that is a
yes,
really
that
busy
helped
schedule.
Too. You don't have time to date.
You have to be focused. If you are as committed as you are, those things can be distractions.
They can be. And I think for me, you know, me swearing off dating, I was like, I was healing for part of it.
Yeah.
But as that 1 year turned into 3, because after a year, it's amazing what you can do when you spend so much time with yourself. You learn your boundaries, you learn discipline, you learn patience. And because I learned so much about myself, I was like, I don't want to date just anybody. I'm going to wait for someone to come along that's worth it.
I'm going to wait for Christian. It'll be like,
yeah, exactly.
You know?
So it's like I learned what I liked and what I didn't like and what I would tolerate, what I wouldn't tolerate.
Did you have a mentor at the time?
I didn't know.
Wow.
No.
What about books? Did you, when I think about residency, I always read Tim Grover's Relentless, and always would listen to what he would say. Did you listen outward or was it all internal?
It was all internal. I wish sometimes I'm embarrassed when people are like, so like, what books did you read? Or like,
hey, David Goggins is always talking about how you shouldn't be looking outward.
Yeah, I think that would have distracted me. So I think for me, I relied on my gut a lot, my gut feeling of what's the right thing to do in this situation. But I will say my mom is like one of the most amazing people in the world, my mom and dad. But my mom especially would always be like, whatever you want to do in this world, you can do it. You just have to work for it. And so she would always tell me like, I'm capable of anything as long as I work hard, I can do hard things. And so she always kind of gave me that confidence too. Mm-hmm. So I'd say I might not have had a mentor, but she always believed in me for sure.
Wendy sounds amazing.
She's great.
She
big fan.
Big fan. I met her. It sounds like you've met her a few times. You then are doing the YouTube. This is your full-time career. You were able to monetize at the time, mm-hmm. right? Figuring out ways to monetize, so it wasn't as if you had $7 any longer mm-hmm. in your account. What transitioned after? Did you just continue to do the YouTube? Were there a moment where you think, okay, now this is full time, I'm going full speed ahead? Did you struggle at all? Did you feel as if there was a failure? Because a lot of what we're hearing is very positive. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes it's always not.
Yes.
Sometimes there are challenges that we don't.
Oh, yeah. I think that semester where I was like, I was working all these different jobs, I was doing YouTube, and I was in school full time. I think that was the hardest semester. And I remember waking up some mornings at like 5 a.m. or whatever time I woke up, and I would like cry a little or tear up a little bit. So I was like, I'm putting so much on myself right now. I remember that what got me through that is I would tell myself, I was like, but if I can get through this semester by working these jobs, doing social media, so basically having my own business and going to school full time, then I can do anything. So that's kind of what pushed me, like on those mornings where I'd cry a little bit, like I'm so stressed. I'd be like, but I'm doing this right now. That's wild. And I was like, if I can get through this semester with straight A's, then I'm going to give myself a break. So I always thought of like, okay, there's a silver lining or there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm a big person, big believer in that, right? So it's like when you're going through those hard times, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And if you focus on that, it'll help you get through it. So that's what helped me get through it. I remember like I did make straight A's that semester, and I was like, I don't know how I did that.
I don't know how I did that. I don't think I've ever made straight A's.
Not every semester was straight A's, but that was a crazy semester. But I also loved school. I did.
You did.
I did.
I did too. Most of it.
Yeah, most of it.
Physics.
Never loved chemistry.
Physics. Well, chemistry I really liked. Physics, no.
Oh, see, I liked physics, statistics.
But you're a math person.
I loved math and I loved science, but chemistry, I hated it.
Really?
I just couldn't. I didn't hate it. I had to study a lot more than that one.
Yes, everybody does.
Yeah.
Are there a handful of strategies, and have you thought about this? Self-talk, for sure, is one for you. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you bet on yourself. It sounds like you have a self-resolve that you're your own best friend. Mm-hmm. And your memory about bad things is very short-term. For example, if you're, waking up with tearing up, it's quick. You're quick to move on. Would you say that there's a handful of those strategies that are maybe conscious, less conscious, that you do routinely, that you've noticed about yourself?
Let's see. I think it's so funny. My mom says this phrase all the time. She said, punch the ticket and move on. And so I always joke around, and I just said that like 2 days ago. That's one of my favorite phrases, because if, you're struggling with something, whether it's work or it's fitness or whatever, it's like, don't dwell on it too much. And so I have some girlfriends, and I've been guilty of it in the past, where, you're going through something, right? You call 1, 2, 3, 5 different girlfriends, you talk it out, you do this. All of a sudden you just wasted like 5 hours of your day.
Yes.
And really you knew the decision that you should have made, right? So I was like, I don't have all the time in the world, especially during those times where I'm working all these jobs and doing that. So I was like, I know what decision I should make, and I need to be confident in that. And if I make the wrong mistake, it's okay. I'm going to learn from it. And it's like, just punch the ticket and move on. So that has helped me a lot, I would say, in life.
I see a new mug coming.
Yeah, punch the ticket and
move on. I mean,
I love a good mug. Big fan.
In our house, we say you've got 15 minutes.
You've got 15 minutes?
You got 15 minutes. Go ahead.
If you want to break down, get upset. I like that.
Be really, whatever it is, you have 15 minutes. And then we say rule number 1, which I'm not going to say on the show. I'm going to tell you after. Never break rule number 1.
Never
break rule number 1, which I'm going to tell you.
I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah. You're going to say, okay, that makes sense. You have 15 minutes. When your 15 minutes are up, you say, okay, that way it doesn't bleed into your whole day.
Yes.
Okay. You can actually, my husband will say, okay, are we starting your 15 minutes now? I'm like, yeah, set that timer. 15 minutes. Oh, it's just, I'm going to call everyone I can in 15 minutes. Yes. And when that 15 minutes is up, you better move on. And it works because the brain is wired for survival, and it's wired for stress. Yes. And if you become and familiarize yourself with this anxious feeling, with this irritation, you become much more likely to do that thing, that brain function, that response each time.
That makes sense.
Furthermore, if you have a limited amount of time and move right into a positive frame of thinking, which is what you seem to do, you become much better at doing that. And then, it was interesting. I was listening to what Christian, your husband, was saying, was that he's been in business for 10 years. And maybe something goes great with business, maybe something, doesn't work out, or a partnership doesn't work. He moves on really quick.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same heat as it did before. And part of that, or maybe it never did, but part of that is you training your mind.
Yes, training your mind.
And then the response becomes second nature. Mm-hmm. And that sounds like that's what happened with you.
Yeah, that's a good nugget. Training your mind, that's so accurate. I think that if you stay in that victim mentality for a long time, it's almost like poison to your brain. And it's like, the answer that you should. Or I like the 15-minute rule, because sometimes I do call a friend, or I'll call Christian, like, hey, what do you like, this is going on, what do you think the right decision? And he'll give me his advice, but ultimately I'll end up making my gut decision.
And you still trust your gut to this day.
Yes.
Which is important because you've had a tremendous amount of success. And sometimes with a lot of success comes a lot of people.
Yes.
And people, again, in ways, it sounds as if your success has built over time. I don't know if it was sudden or if it really did build over time. And I was talking to Whitney Cummings about this just over the last couple of days. And she says, nobody prepares you for being a celebrity. No one prepares you for very fast success. And there's things that come with that.
Yes.
If you have not done it slow over time. Have you had that experience?
Yes, I would say multiple times. There's just been times where, when I first started doing YouTube and everything, it was for fun, right? And then for it to develop into a business, I just wanted to make a pair of leggings that made women feel confident and made them feel like, wow, I look great in these and they function well. So I think for me, I was like, I just want to give women a pair of leggings that made them feel good. And, developing it into a business was never the goal in the beginning. I was like, I'm just making merch, but just higher quality.
Wait, so did you did you walk in a store and you were like, wow, I'm definitely not wearing these. I cannot find a pair. I'm going to make my own.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wore so many different brands all the time, like throughout my fitness journey. And I was like, these shorts are too short. These leggings are functional, but they make my butt look just not cute. It's not flattering for a woman's body. And even now to this day, it's, I try to look at a lot of other brands. I'm like, great, these big brands, like they're so good at making items functional, but they don't think about the woman's body. Like we don't want, I use this terminology in my design room. I'm like, guys, either free the lat or tuck the lat, but don't have it cross over the lat. It's like the most uncomfortable thing when you're trying to train. So just making products for women specifically that made them feel confident. And
By a woman, which is awesome.
Do it?
By a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
You were, yeah.
So that was my goal. Like I wasn't trying to have a big company. I wasn't trying to be a CEO. I was just wanted to give women a great pair of leggings.
Was there a moment? Was there an aha moment where you thought, okay, yep, that's what I'm going to do? Do you remember the
I think it just,
time?
At first I did t-shirt merch stuff, right? While I was working on the leggings, because developing leggings can take years. So while I was, oh yes. I mean, the whole process, I'll have to like have you over for dinner and
Holy
like,
cow.
I'll go through the whole thing. So if we were to reorder this top, for example, it would come in about 6 months.
Why?
And it's like,
that's insane.
So we mill the fabric. And so whenever you mill the fabric, they knit the fabric, right? And then that takes about 30 days. And it takes about 30 days to then lab dip it and dye the lot of fabric, which can take 30 days. Then you have the cut and sew period, the pattern. It's
Holy
a whole,
cow.
Yeah, it takes a while. Then you have coming by sea, or you have the shipment of it in air, and every little detail. So if there's like buttons, if there's zippers, everything is lab dipped. So
and
it
this was
matches.
always like this? This is before Buff Bunny. Was it always Buff Bunny?
Yes.
It was. Wow. It was always Buff Bunny.
I kept the name.
Buff Bunny, always.
Yes. I love the name because for me at the time, and even now still, I was like, okay, Buff kind of represented this like strong, powerful side of a woman. And then Bunny was like staying in touch with like your nurturing side, feminine side, being soft. So it's like keeping the hard powerfulness of the buff side and then keeping that balance of being feminine and soft and having it blended together. So that's what inspired me for the name, and I've always loved it. And I feel like I just still resonate with it so much. I was like, yeah, I love to go in the gym and throw some weights around and be sweaty, but then, you know, maybe do it wearing pink.
Or hologram
Yes.
purple.
Exactly. Like,
or
you
the
can express
scrunchy
yourself
mocha.
in the gym, and I just
the
love
mocha.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you sat down for the first pair of first actually started as a t-shirt.
Yes. The first 2 launches started t-shirts, and I remember launching them, they sold out so fast. And I was like, okay. And then by the time I had the leggings, it was about 8 months after we started doing the merch. But at that time, I used stock fabrics, so it didn't take as long as 6 months to do a restock. It would take closer to 3 months to do a restock. So, but the fabrics, and they were good back then, but now they're like superior because now we can add collagen into the fabrics, and we can really create whatever we want with the fabrics. But back then we were a little bit more limited because you have your MOQs. So you have to
I don't even
order
know
it.
what that is.
You have your minimum order quantity.
I
so they
see.
were like, oh,
Okay.
if you want to do collagen fabric, you need to order 20,000 pieces. And I was just starting. So I was like, I don't got 20,000 pieces.
I have my mom's gonna buy a pair.
Yeah, I was like,
my
I got 3
sisters. They're definitely getting a pair. So we're gonna place the order for 15
Yes.
pieces.
Small units.
Yes. Was there a moment where you're thinking, okay, holy cow, this is now a real business?
I think I had imposter syndrome for a little while when I first started. I was like, especially when I first did YouTube, right? I was like, oh, this is only going to last for a little bit. But then that developed into then me creating a brand, right? And then I was like, well, this is only going to last for a little bit. And I went from, you know, launching some t-shirts in my living room to then my whole house that I had just rented became a whole fulfillment center. I was having friends in there every day, and we were packing orders, and we were trying to figure out customer service and how do we print a shipping label. And so it kind of developed into that.
Sounds like it developed fast.
Oh, it developed very quickly. Yes.
I mean, are we talking about, okay, I'm going to make this, and then it was in a month where you're thinking, whoa.
I think the first couple t-shirt launches, I was like, oh, these will last like 6 months, and they lasted 30 seconds on the website.
That's
so
crazy.
It was very crazy, and it was definitely very fast for sure. I think I wish I knew all the exact numbers, but I want to say the first year was like 500,000, and just t-shirts mainly t-shirts. And I think we had leggings towards the end of that year. And even at that point, I mean, that's a lot of money, right? And I was like, this is a lot, but the imposter side of me was like, this is temporary. Next year, it's probably not going to do anywhere near this. But it did much more than that. So it's like each year grew so much. And I think the first 2 years, I was having imposter syndrome. And then my husband was the one who was like, you need to get a warehouse because you have employees in your house every single day. You have subcontractors in your house every day. You have all these friends over. It was like my house is a fulfillment center. And I was like, yeah. So I looked at warehouses.
But the first 2 years you were doing it out of your house.
I think
Or
it
so,
was
something like that. Doesn't have to be exact.
Yeah, I would say maybe a year and a half.
And then your husband swooped in and was like, okay,
Yeah, he's like, this is a problem. I was looking into it, but
And you didn't have a CEO at the time. You've been running,
yeah,
right?
I've never had a CEO. So I've just figured it out along the way.
You just figured it out. But what you did is you just started, and it doesn't sound like it was premeditated. It began in a place where, okay, I really love helping women.
Yeah.
Women want to see from other women and hear from other women, which I fully believe.
Yes.
And you wanted to make them something that was comfortable and amazing.
Yes. And I think, you know, during the process, I was very transparent with while I was making the clothes. I was like, guys, do you like this? Or what do you think of these leggings on my YouTube? So
That's cool.
They
That's
felt like
super
they were
cool.
a part of it. And I remember we had a batch of leggings come in, and I was like, these are see-through. I did not order these. I would not approve these. And I was like, guys, this whole shipment that came in, I'm so sorry. We're getting them redone because these are see-through, and I'm not going to sell you guys see-through leggings. And I think it was things like that women really appreciated. They're like, thank you so much. Like we appreciate you listening to us. And that's something that, you know, I still teach my teams. I'm like, listen and have conversations with the customers and the people instead of just like telling them what's going to happen. It's like have conversations first, because the most valuable products that we've came out with are listening to women of what they want, and also like how to solve a problem for them and make their life better. You know, because everyone can sell a pair of leggings.
Yeah.
But it's the transparency and giving women a masterpiece is what I like to call it. It's like a masterpiece or nothing. I'd rather wait.
All right. What makes Cozy Earth different? Number one, temperature regulation. Cozy Earth sheets are so breathable that you'll sleep several degrees cooler. The fabric is amazing. It has durable weave fabric that won't pill, and also it's guaranteed for 10 years. It is soft. And not only that, it has this bamboo viscose, which is what it's made from. And every time you wash these sheets, it becomes softer. So it's not like that, you know, those other sheets that you wash a million times and they all start to fall apart and they should be called uncomfortable earth. Cozy Earth is not that. It is bedding and bath products that have a 10-year warranty guarantee. Again, they are bamboo sheet sets, 100% premium viscose from bamboo, breathable sheets, uniquely and softly tailored to you. Get softer with every wash. And not only that, 100-night sleep trial. Yes, you can sleep on it for 100 nights and get a full refund. Wrap yourself in luxury this fall. I know that I'm going to. So you guys send me some more. Go to cozyearth.com/Dr. Lion. You'll get 40% off your purchase. That's cozyearth.com/Dr. Lion. And if you get a post-purchase survey, say you heard about Cozy Earth from this podcast, and who knows, maybe you'll get a surprise. I'm so excited to share with you guys a scientific breakthrough to support our long-term health and wellness. C15 is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in, get this, 90 years. That was omega-3 fatty acids. You've heard of the freshman 15, but let's talk about something positive. Our primary source of C15 has long been whole fat dairy products. Unfortunately, I don't eat those. You might not either. And our C15 levels have gone down because many of us are eating a lot less of them. Additionally, our C15 levels naturally decline as we get older. Now, C15 works in a number of ways. It helps repair damaged cells. It may protect us from future breakdown, could potentially boost mitochondrial energy output, activates pathways in the body to help regulate sleep, mood, and natural repair mechanisms that, of course, support our overall health. Now, it ends up many of us are deficient in this saturated fat, C15, which results in obviously weaker cells, potentially less energy. Fatty 15, when you take it orally, is highly absorbable, and it can actually help with cellular repair. It is made from a patented pure oxidative resistant process. It is vegan friendly, no fillers, no allergens, no preservatives. It is 100% pure. Fatty 15 is on a mission to help you replenish your C15 levels and restore your long-term health. You can get an additional, get this, 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Dr. Lion and using the code DRLYON at checkout. Have you had struggles with that, or like the business? Were there periods of time where you're thinking this has grown too fast, and maybe you haven't, or just, you know, imposter syndrome is something heavy. It can be really heavy if you don't move on from it. Then it can be a challenge, and it can be mentally distracting.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I think there's a few times. And when I say imposter syndrome, I don't sit there for days or weeks.
No, clearly not. You get your 15 minutes. But for the other women.
That's so accurate. 15 minutes of imposter syndrome.
So listen, I am telling you, there are patterns of ways of interpreting the external world that all my most successful friends and patients do. They are not different.
Yeah, we're all the same.
The ones that rise to the top, you show me your habits and I will tell you where you are in business.
Wow.
And
that's powerful.
It is powerful. And also, when you identify where the weaknesses are, those are all coachable. One can
Yes.
be coached out of those. If they feel worthy enough to move on from it, they can be coached out of it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is. Extraordinary. Our biology does not have to own or run us. It ultimately becomes a choice.
It does become a choice. That's so accurate.
You give yourself 15 minutes of feeling like,
An
holy
imposter.
cow, imposter,
And then you just
and then you
gotta
shake it off, and you
make
got
the
it.
decision. Yeah. I think for me, the warehouse was a big moment for me. You know, people are like, oh, it's just a warehouse. You're doing all this crazy stuff in your house. Like, why warehouse? But for me, I was like, I'm locking in for 3 years because you have to sign a lease. And I was like, 3 years of paying this rent scared me. Because I was in my head, I was like, well, this could be just temporary. But I was like, looking at my house, I was like, okay, my whole house is a fulfillment center. I was like, I need some normalcy in my life and not having, 10, 15 people in my house sometimes to pack orders during launches. So I remember getting the warehouse, and I remember the real estate agent kind of being like, you got big dreams. I was like, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
And they were like, maybe you should look for something maybe smaller. I was like, oh, I wish I would have done bigger, because within 6 months, we outgrew the warehouse. Something that I was like, 3 years I'm so nervous about. But I was like, man, well, now I'm mad that I signed 3 years to a space I outgrew in 6 months. But
And what'd you do?
I
Sublease.
So I subleased, yes.
Okay.
So eventually
Sublease.
I ended up moving to Houston because my husband and I were dating. I think after we had the warehouse for a year and a half or 2 years or so, that's when I moved to Houston. And I got a much bigger warehouse, which was very helpful.
Do you still feel inspired every day by what you're doing?
Yes. I love what I do. I love what I do. I think what drives me the most is just creating products for women that helps them the most. So with apparel, some people are like, it's just a pair of leggings. But I take so much pride in every item that I do, every color, every piece, every stitch. I'll be like, oh, instead of this flat lock, let's do this. I call it a skinny Rosa seam. I didn't go to fashion school. I have amazing designers that I work for that are way better at way better at that than I am. But I'm like, but how can we make the woman's body look amazing in these pair of leggings? It's like, great, this is a good fabric, but how can we have a woman put these leggings on and be like, I look so good? And that's my goal, because I think a lot of women can buy leggings from everywhere, but sometimes it just doesn't flatter their figure. And if they don't look good, they don't feel as confident. And it's not them or their body. It's usually the legging that just doesn't work with their shape. So that's why we love to do a lot of contouring and like really bring out the curves in a woman's body, and do things like, like the freeing the lat or tucking the lat. And, I use this terminology on YouTube because I'm just showing behind the scenes. I'm like, okay, do you guys want to feel secured in this area, or do you want to open up and show off your lats? And so they love it because they feel empowered, like they're part of this process. And
you're still doing that
I
to
still
this
do
day.
that. I love it. And I never get tired of it because they have great ideas. So we have this community channel. It's our Discord. And we have actually a channel on there. We say design ideas. Drop your ideas in here. And sometimes they come up with great ideas or colors. And because of that, they love purchasing because they're like, oh, they listen to us. A lot of other brands, that's something that most brands don't do because they don't know how to connect those. But we let them vote and put ideas in there, or they'll change colors. They'll be like, oh, can we do a backpack, but do it bright yellow? And they'll actually Photoshop it and put it in there. And I'm like, that's actually pretty cute. So they feel very connected to the brand.
When I think about what you're doing, it really is, it gives back a lot, and it creates a legacy for people, right? For thinking about what is it that they need to do in their own life. I mean, I'm sure it's been very inspiring for me to see you and watch you and listen to you. I can only imagine, when people have their ideas, and it gives, when you see one person do it, then you can be inspired by greatness, right? You can be inspired by, hey, this person did this. This is amazing. If this person is doing it, I can follow my dream.
Absolutely.
Right? You become inspired by each other. And as you think about your legacy and inspiring women to leave their own, where do you see yourself going, personally? Because there's Buff Bunny and then there's Heidi Summers. What's your you have a new last name coming out soon.
Yeah, coming out soon.
So we'll have to change that eventually.
Yeah.
But where do you see yourself going for your next
Venture.
iteration? Yeah.
I think right now, Buff Bunny Collection's at such a great spot. I have amazing, amazing departments, teams, leads, brilliant minds. Like, I am so grateful each day for them. I'm just like, I can't believe I get to work with these incredible women. We do have 2 guys, but mainly women at the brand.
Those guys are tough, man. That's a lot of estrogen.
It is a lot of estrogen, and they're the best team players. Because I have them, I feel so confident in the brand because they know how I think and they know what's important to me. They know the brand values. And not even a year ago, actually, I wanted to do a fitness app for so long. I was like, this would be such a great avenue to create something special for women. But it took me a long time to do it because I know my boundaries. I was like, okay, until I have a incredible, brilliant, functional team, I don't feel comfortable starting a second business because my first team needs me. So, and once I built out a phenomenal team at Buff Bunny Collection, which took a long time, but I was like, they're worth it. Then I took a baby step back and I was able to create Grounds. And a lot of people gave me pushback. They were like, there are a million fitness apps out there. Everyone's doing fitness apps. What makes you want to do it now? I feel like it's just very saturated. But in my head, I looked out there and I was like, I don't see any fitness apps out there that have everything a woman needs for her fitness and health journey. Yes, there's apps, but a one-stop shop for women where they had workouts, programs, nutrition, period tracking, journal, a community. It's like most apps had 2 or 3, but they didn't have everything encompassing in one. Like macro calculator, we have a lot. And you can integrate it with your Apple Watch. And me wanting that, I was like, there's nothing out there for women like that. And I guess as someone that's trying to conceive, I was like, I refused to launch the app without the period tracker because I was like, I have adenomyosis. So I struggle with my cramps. And I wanted to use it whenever I was ready to have a baby. So I was
you built the app for yourself.
So I built the app for myself, but also a lot of other women.
No, I'm joking in the way that
yeah,
you
selfishly
found.
I did build it for myself.
But you've created something that is really what you want or what you would want, just like leggings that would make you feel amazing.
Exactly. And I remember we had the app like fully done. Like the team was like, we're ready to launch it. They're like, but the period tracker's not on there. I was like, let's wait. And they were like, you're driving us crazy. Because they were like, this app is so great without the period tracker. I was like,
you want it to be right.
But I need it to be done right. And it's like, even if we have to wait, I want to wait till it's done right. It's like that masterpiece mindset, if you will. I was like, I want a masterpiece or wait till it's a masterpiece. And that has brought me so much joy because I love apparel and I love sharing videos on YouTube of the journey and, what I've done to stay in shape and run businesses. But the app itself, like seeing women transform and having a community, it's like, I wish I would have had this when I started.
Yes.
And that's why I created it.
I think that is a core theme of success in business and in health is that it's not about the lone wolf. It's not.
Yeah.
We are always stronger together and better and more capable.
Exactly. It's like we can do so much on our own, but we could do so much more together. It's wild.
Where do you think Buff Bunny will continue to create amazing? I tell you, I'm wearing Buff Bunny now, and now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I better order those mocha scrunchy pants because once they are gone, they are
the
gone.
Aggressive scrunch.
Yes,
those are great. Right? Those are my favorite right now.
Yes, but now you're telling me that if it sells out, then it's going to take a million months to get.
6 months.
Right? No, I am. As soon as we are done, I'm ordering mine. But where do you see Buff Bunny going? Because it's I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. It has all kinds of stuff. It doesn't just have workout stuff, but it is a brand that is made by a woman and it's for women so that they can feel amazing and comfortable. Where do you see that expanding? Or do you think that you'll continue to, diversify to an app, to other things?
I think with both Buff Bunny Collection and Grounds, we're still kind of building out our 5-10 years right now. I definitely want to keep Buff Bunny Collection what it's doing now with transparency and community and creating products for women that solve problems, and almost like hand in hand alongside Grounds. Like, it's completely separate companies, but helping inspire women to do more for their lives. So like whether that's moving their body more, or going on walks more, or learning how to fix their diet or eat healthier and things like that. And as both of those brands continue to grow and build and flourish, I would eventually, I think my long-term goal is I'd love eventually to take a baby step back, because I'm always very involved. When I say baby step back, it's like instead of being 150% involved, it's like 99.
So basically the team's like, oh, shoo. Yeah, they're like, she'll still be there.
Yes, exactly. Because I love what I do. And although I have amazing teams on both sides, like, they do love how involved I am, because they're like, can we walk hand in hand on you on this one project? But they know that I trust them to do everything without me if I have to disappear for a month or something like that. But I would love to eventually focus on my own personal brand, where it's more so about helping women become better.
I love that.
And a term I like to say, it's like upgrade their lives in any way, whether it's, losing the 5 pounds, or it's finding the confidence to start their own business, or ask for the promotion, or figure out a way from here to getting that promotion, like the steps going that way, or learning how to fuel their body right. So actually right before this, I was at a doctor's appointment. I was talking to a guy in the waiting room, and he was like, I got to eat 200 grams of protein per day. How do I do that? And I was like, well, let's break it down. Like, if it's 200 milligrams that you needed, in a day, how many meals do you eat a day? He's like, oh, I eat about 5 meals a day. And I was like, okay, so let's break that 200 into those things. And then it started clicking in his mind. He was like, oh, it's not that hard. I was like, yeah, if you look at the problem or the goal at first, and, it seems 200 so much, but you start breaking it down, it makes it more digestible for people.
Yeah. And
so I'd love to help more women in that aspect, like be able to upgrade their lives in any way that I can.
I think that the women listening are so grateful, because that also means that their partners are grateful, because where one person goes, the other person goes.
Yeah, it's a team.
It is fully about the team. If you were thinking about a piece of advice that you'd like to leave people with, what would it be? Or your daughter, or your first child, if you say, okay, well, obviously there's so much advice I could give you, but do you have one thing?
It sounds silly, but the best advice that I always give, women or men or whoever needs, a little something, it's just start. It sounds so simple and so silly, but, when I moved from Alaska to Texas, and when I did my first public speaking event, or when I started working out and doing all these things, it's the biggest struggle I had was just starting. It's like I would overthink it. I would be like, okay, do I do this decision or not? And as soon as I'd be like, I don't have to have it all figured out right away. I just have to start, make a baby step. I think that's the biggest struggle that a lot of people have, is they think they're waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect everything, where in reality it's just taking that one step. It doesn't have to be a big one, but just take like a step, just start.
A step. So, Heidi Somers, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You are just as lovely in person as I imagined you to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited, and I'm excited to have a new best friend in Houston.
That's right. And also, friends, we are both the same size.
The same exact height. That's wild.
5'1"?
As soon as I hugged her, I was like, wait a second. I didn't realize you were this little.
There you go. You are extraordinary. And again, I think that you have so much to teach the world. And that's exactly what it sounds like you're going to be doing.
Thank you.
And
I try. I love women. I love working with them. And thank you for having me on your podcast. I was so nervous to come on this podcast. I felt more comfortable a few minutes in, but I've just been watching your videos for so long. I was like, you are so beautiful. You're so intelligent. You're so smart. You built such a wonderful platform and done so much for other people that I was nervous to be in your presence.
well, that dissipated quickly, but thank you so much for saying that. And I think that, one thing that I believe very strongly is that we have to uplift each other.
Yes.
Because again, we will move the needle much more together than we will alone. And I've just been watching you, and I, again, think that you are extraordinary. And Buff Bunny is amazing. Okay, as you know, I wear Buff Bunny, but you are amazing. And it's a testament to when you can control your inner dialogue, when you can take these steps forward and move the needle. And you did it in a way that I find very classy and something that I would feel comfortable with my daughter seeing. So thank you.
Thank you. The best compliment.
Thank you.